Hey guys, hi, and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, one-stop shop for interviews, podcasts, content, and a whole variety of subjects. Shows on mental health, football, films, TV, wrestling, music, and more. So we've had a couple of more serious shows recently with the mental health ones. So today's show is going to be a bit more lighthearted and a bit more fun. But this is a debut episode in our series on conspiracy theories. This intro is just going to be an introduction to conspiracy theories, should I say? And then each episode after that, we'll pick one famous conspiracy theory and discuss all elements of that particular conspiracy, including reviewing the evidence, the news reports, maybe some documentaries or witness testimony, whatever it may be. To join me as we go down the rabbit hole of paranoia and government conspiracies is my co-host Rhys Pycroft. Thanks for joining me, Rhys.
Hello, Simon.
Buddy.
You finally got you?
Yeah, it took us a bit of playing around, but we got you eventually. Going forward, we're going to have video for Rhys as well. But we just had a bit of a few technical issues, shall we say. Just before we get started, I just wanted to do a little disclaimer. It's going to be like a light-hearted, fun show. But before we head down the terrifying and weird roads to conspiracy theories, I want to point out that just because we discuss a particular theory, it doesn't mean we believe it to be true, agree with the points of view, or in any way think that that's how it went down. We are simply going to discuss the popular theories and the evidence presented by the people who champion them. So there. Okay. So, me and Rhys, we both enjoy going down the rabbit hole, as it were, with conspiracy theories. So we thought it would be a bit of fun just to, just see what's going on, really. So, Rhys, if a guy asked you off the street, what is a conspiracy theory, what would you tell him?
The best way to describe it would be an action caused by a hidden organization, should we say?
Yeah, I think so. It's a hard one to explain, especially to someone who, if they just sort of get all their news and their everything every day from like BBC and Sky and Sun and their all different newspapers, they just assume that everything in those places, that's fact and that's true.
Yep.
I did as well a few years ago, and then I was like, oh, hang on a minute, they actually quite often only tell you half a story, or they don't even tell you that. They just twist it, and it's a weird one, because if you say to some people like what I just said, they look at you like you're just completely bananas. I think people are getting a bit more switched on over the last couple of years, that maybe not everything you see in your telly box is completely true. So
the thing is, with the internet nowadays, people can search and find out the answers. Well, to most questions. I mean, the major conspiracy theories out there, the moon landings, your JFK, all these sort of things. There was only a handful of people who knew these events happened. So they could be made up. They might not. Is there concrete evidence? We don't really know.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun bit, isn't it? Is just like looking at all the different points of view and all the different bits of evidence and all the pictures and the videos, and try to make up your own mind. And like you say, like before the internet, people only had what was on TV or what was in the papers or was on the radio to make up their mind. So why would you think why would the BBC lie to me? Why would they say something which didn't happen? And I think it's difficult to change your mindset on that. And I think it's a gradual thing. I think people are getting it quicker now on the internet, like you say, because now there's so many websites and news sites and places on the internet, and even with just like Twitter and social media and Facebook, there's people pointing out things that they're the news organisations or the government are saying, which are incorrect. And it can be with people. If it gets shared by enough people, it can be in and around millions in seconds, like in real time.
Yeah.
So on Wikipedia, it says a conspiracy theory is a belief that some covert but influential organization is responsible for a particular event. So, like, some people, wrongly, in my view, believe that conspiracy theories, or people who believe in them, are paranoid or they're crazy, and it's like, oh, you're a nutter, blah blah blah. But it's just not the case. In fact, like I say, I've watched hours and hours over the years of like documentaries on so many like different subjects. 9/11, I've seen far too many for my own liking, and the moon landing. But like I've seen just loads, and like some I believe, some I don't believe, some I think are bananas. But like I just find them interesting, which it's just like a hobby, I suppose it's just because you watch stuff or you read stuff doesn't mean that you have to believe everything which is in that documentary or everything which is in that news article. So,
The thing is,
Rhys,
how many facts are out there now that used to be conspiracy theories?
I was saying there, it's like, what was I thinking the other day? Some like what they change over the years, didn't they? So, like, say with the moon landing now, there was like a poll a couple of years ago about how many people believed that they landed on the moon, and the people who didn't believe that they landed on the moon, I think it was slightly higher than people who believed it. And like when you think, like the government and people, they all still stick to that story that we went to the moon and we landed at a blah blah blah. But like, not many people still believe that. And I'm sure, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's some which 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago were considered conspiracy theories, and now they're fact. It changes over the years, and I like 9/11 is a big one. I think in 20 years, by the time all my kids are grown adults and having their own kids, I believe that it'll be common knowledge that was like didn't happen as it was portrayed on TV. But I mean, it takes time, doesn't it? Because the mainstream media, if you like, they won't report it until the government says, "Oh no, this is actually what happened." They'll they won't actually do their jobs as journalists and try and find out the truth, which is what they should do. And at the end of the day, a journalist is supposed to get to the truth, no matter where the truth goes. I think there's not enough these days, and I don't know if it's the journalist's fault or the fact that they're just stopped by their employers from doing so.
I think they're stopped by the employers myself. I mean,
yeah, and I think like
Rupert Murdoch, prime example, manipulated things to his advantage, the news, everything. He manipulated a country to his own advantage by writing a few words, basically. And that's how easily it's done.
Oh, absolutely. You look at Hillsborough. For years afterwards, people blamed the Liverpool fans, and it was their fault, and they did this and they did that. And now it's the news, but that was the newspapers. There were stories in the Sun saying how Liverpool fans had urinated on like dying fans and that. It was complete bullshit. There was not an ounce of truth to it. Yet at the time, that's what people believed because it was in the papers. Whereas now, it's like you've got that big campaign, "Don't buy the Sun," and this, that, and the other. But like, I just don't see. But then they never changed. They didn't change their story until some of the other newspapers ran with the actual evidence and exposed them. They didn't come out on their own and say, "Oh, we made a mistake." It was they got caught, and then they report the truth. I think that's the same for the majority of conspiracies, maybe not all. But yeah, the Murdochs are prime example, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. But like you say, the only one that comes to mind at the moment. Can you remember the old the CIA was testing LSD on people and other hallucinogenic drugs, etc. Well, that got proved to be fact, didn't it, in recent years?
Yeah, well, they released when the government released all the documents from it. It was like MK Ultra, and they were using it to test on soldiers to see if they'd break in under interrogation, and also MK Ultra was more like mind control and stuff. But like they were using hallucinogens and LSD to try and obviously test those two factors. And it was the same. They used to test. They injected a load of poor people with like syphilis and stuff in
Yeah,
America, and you know they're facts now. Whereas 10 years, 15, 20, I can't remember when they came out when they declassified the files. But like if you'd said that before those files were declassified, people would have said you're bananas. Like they would have said you're fucking nuts. And there's no
yeah,
chance. But they wouldn't do that to their own people. They weren't just doing it to their own people. They were doing it to their own soldiers and just people who just, Joe Blogs from in the street who didn't have any
yeah.
money.
But back then, a lot of people were delusional. Everyone, whatever the government said, they believed.
Oh God, Joe, I think there's still a few of them around, mate. But
Yeah,
uh,
they're bogging around.
it's not as bad. But no, you're right. Especially in America, like at that point, like after, around like Vietnam and stuff like that, and before, people were so patriotic they couldn't imagine their governments or their politicians conspiring, to against them or to harm them. They just thought, oh, America is the greatest country in the world. They would never did, they've got our best interests at all time, and obviously now we know this is not the case. Can't trust a politician now, unfortunately. So,
Well, the way of the
what was
world
the
nowadays, you can't trust many people, unfortunately.
Well, that's it. That's very true as well, which is depressing as it is. What was the first conspiracy you came across, or you discovered, and you were like, "Oh, hang on a minute."
The first one that ever rings a bell was JFK and the grassy knoll.
Yeah, I think that's
And the more the years have gone on, the more there's come out about it and things. And there's always strange little facts that tie everything in together. Like I'm pretty sure every single American president who's been assassinated, their assassin had a double-barrel surname.
it's mad, isn't it? Just coincidence, supposedly. But like with JFK, I find that like, to me, all the documentaries and all the different stuff I've read about it, like he was definitely killed by some offshoot of the CIA, and because he wanted to close down the CIA, and he didn't want to, with the stuff with Cuba and that, he didn't want to back the CIA and what they wanted to do, because they wanted to do like a false flag in Cuba. But like, there's so many different versions and different people come out over the years, and even now they're coming out. It's difficult to try and work out what actually went on with it, because I remember for years I was like, yeah, there was definitely someone. It was someone on the grassy knoll,
Yeah,
and then I watched a doc, and there was someone. These people were saying like, oh, they think there's someone shot from it in the car went past, and like, whilst it didn't seem right to me because of the way like his head goes back, didn't seem like it was coming from sort of underneath. But all the evidence which they presented, or the way they presented it in this documentary, I was like, oh, maybe. And I think the one thing which is clear is that it wasn't just some random dude who was a bit nuts shooting a rifle from a tiny window in a library to a moving target with all the most protected man in the world. Pretty sure
that is an amazing shot for the most trained sniper to pull off, especially back then, considering how low tech the gun would have been compared to what's about now. And even now, it'd still be a hard shot.
Well, if you think like sniper rifle now, you can reload in a few seconds, and you perhaps don't have to be the most skilled sniper to reload quickly. But the type of rifle which they say he used or that was available to someone, of his stature, just some guy off the street, basically. It was like a proper. You had to like pull it back and put the bullet in. It would, it would take like 5 to 10 seconds just to reload it. And I think, but people don't think of that. They just watch, they see the documentary, they see whatever they see or they read, and then, oh, this is what happened. But when you look at it now, you're like, well, it couldn't have happened.
I think the JFK incident revolutionized America in the point that up until then, the president wasn't kept in the loop on everything that went on in the country. Like there was the whole Fidel Castro, the assassination attempts. The president knew nothing about that until something leaked out. Nowadays, nothing happens in America without the president knowing.
Yeah. And I think, well, JFK, just the way he wanted to do things changed the way the presidency or the way the presidents worked and the way they, just the way they ran the country. Because, like you say, they're a lot more in the loop now. I'm not sure if I agree that they know everything, because I think, like, there's people in the background and the CIA who they just get stuff done without perhaps always sharing it with the main man. But like you say, compared to what it was then, there's a big difference. So do you think JFK was that? So yeah, I think the first one which I came across where I was like, all right, so it didn't maybe happen like it was said. It was either JFK or the moon landing. They were the first sort of two which caught my eye. Which was the first one, do you reckon, that you sort of believed the conspiracy rather than the official story, if you like?
The JFK one, I think. More so because when the word came out that they thought the moon landings were fake, it was still back before we had internet and could find out our own things. And again, bit blinkered. You don't think NASA and people like that are going to lie to you? That was an amazing thing. Since Yuri Gagarin went up to space, America then put somebody on the moon. They stepped foot on a different planet pretty much. That's fucking amazing. Why would you want to fake that? Russia's already won the space race. They've been up there. There's no point faking a second.
It's weird, don't it? It's like, I don't know. It's difficult for me because I look at it completely different now. So I'm trying to think back to when, before I watched all these things and read all about it. Like, so I find it difficult sometimes to remember the points where I just believed it. But yeah, like you grow up and it's like you're just taught, that NASA's this amazing people and they got people into the moon, up to the moon and into space and all this type of thing. And then when you find out that, oh, hang on, maybe this hasn't happened and maybe they're not quite as successful in exploring space as they've made out. And it could be a studio set and this and that and all the different things. It's mind-blowing the first time you realize, because you're like, I was taught all this stuff in school and it might not be true. So it's like it can be a big
but flipping a conspiracy theory on a conspiracy theory regarding the moon landings. Back then, there pretty much was only America and Russia dealing with the space race. Now, there's quite a few countries involved, but there's also private sectors. So, obviously, huge amount of money involved in this. Money, power, all that crap. What if it wasn't one of these other companies or a private sector company who's brought about all this to discredit America when they actually did land on the moon?
It's possible. I just think the technology which was available in the 60s and before is not got anything on the technology that we've got now. And the fact that they haven't been back tells me everything I need to know, to be honest. But obviously, that's not what I base.
Bugbear since all this come out. Why has nobody else ever stepped foot on the moon?
Yeah, and I think it's not that like I forgot what I was going to say now. But yeah, it's just a weird one, isn't it? Because like you think of all the technology, like I'm doing this now on my tiny thin phone, which is only a bit thicker than my credit card, like, and I'm filming a podcast with you who's in different part of Cardiff or outside Cardiff, and we're doing a show and we're going to put it on the internet, and yeah, they didn't have the technology.
You can connect with someone over the other side of the world within seconds and see them there on a screen in front of you.
Yeah, and then you couldn't do that in the 60s or anywhere even close to it. Yeah, they had the technology to get to the moon then, but they haven't got the technology now. You know what I mean? And like,
to be honest, by now there should be a little colony on the moon by now.
Yeah. You see, there's two thought processes, though. No, there's like the thought process that they never went, and a lot of the space stuff is fake. I can't wait for that show, by the way. It's the stuff about the space station and the moon. It's going to be awesome. So there's the thought. So there's the people who think that we went. There's the people who think they faked it, and then there's also people who think that they did go, but they didn't come. They didn't go back because there's like alien bases on the dark side of the moon.
And the dark side of the moon, we're going there.
But that's what that's like the alternate conspiracy theory, if you like, is that they basically told them don't come back type thing. Which it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, but the human race, naturally, there would be somebody who would defy that because that reduces their power. So somebody would go against that and put someone on the moon. They wouldn't be told what to do by an alien.
Yeah, and plus, if you think of all the leaks that has happened over the years, you're telling me that wouldn't have leaked out in some newspaper somewhere. You know, they might not be the best journalist in terms of integrity and then getting to the bottom of genuine like politics and conspiracies which going on now. But you know, someone somewhere would have spoken about that at some point. And
maybe, but there's so much else that goes on, people lose interest. Yeah. And who's going to believe someone who speaks out about it now?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's when you see these deathbed confessions, you never know you know, if they're true or they're not true, or it's a real difficult one to do because you just don't know, do you? You don't know what someone's state of mind is. Are they doing it just for like their last 5 minutes of fame because they want to be remembered, or are they doing it because they want to clear their conscience and reveal like the conspiracy or whatever? But so you got the moon, which we've touched on a bit. We touched on straight away JFK and the moon, straight away in deep. So, like, if someone said to you, what's the 3 biggest conspiracies of all time? Not necessarily biggest theories, but like the 3 biggest events.
Wow, I think we've hit on the top 2, haven't we?
Yeah.
And the third one has got to be 9/11.
My favourite subject.
I'm pretty sure there's more TV documentaries and films made about that than any other conspiracy theory out there.
Yeah, I get really frustrated. I don't watch much live TV anymore. I really only watch like live TV, watch sport and boxing and UFC. Like, but
yeah,
if like I watched the Netflix Mandela McCann thing, which annoyed me. And I watched like if like a new 9/11 documentary comes out on TV, like I watch it because I want to see what they report and what they leave out and all this type of thing.
Yeah.
They just drive me insane because they focus on crap. Like they don't focus on the actual story behind it and all the inconsistencies of the different elements to it. It's like they focus on the horrible images of people jumping out of windows, which, you know, it's fucking horrible. But like, they focus on that for shock value rather than focusing on things which don't add up. And that to me, that's the stuff that really, really matters. Like, obviously, you still got to mention the poor people who had to jump out of a building knowing they were going to die, but it was like that or burn alive. You got to mention them, and you got to feature them in your documentary. Of course, you have.
It's not just them; it's the people who went in to save the people who lost their life. You know, it's the knock-on effect is horrendous.
But all those people and their families, they're owed. I think that they would prefer to know the truth and what actually happened than some sort of fluffed up thing which is just repeated over and over again, which half the world doesn't believe anyway.
No, it's one of them. Will we ever really know the truth things? Because the people in power, if they want to keep a secret, they'll keep a secret. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, one of the things I was hoping when Trump took over was he had said he was going to get to the bottom of 9/11 and he was going to release all this stuff. But of course, as they do, says one thing when he wants to get elected, and then when it comes to actually doing it, they don't get around to doing it. But that was one of my hopes with him.
Bottom line, how much dirt do you think the government has got on Trump?
Oh, God, yeah.
They could ruin him. So he's going to do whatever he's told. Trump's a puppet.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, they all are, aren't they? That's what makes me laugh is when people sort of say, oh, President Trump should do this or he should do that. It's like, not really in charge.
No.
The president is never really the one who's making the decisions and making the choices.
One person in charge.
No. And we'll get to that when we get to like secret societies and Illuminati where people think that one, that's a big one. That is so much.
Yeah. Fun fact for that, I'm pretty sure every American congressman is a Freemason.
Yeah, the Freemasons and the Skull and Bones, isn't it? The secret society from like they join when they're in like university and all that, don't they? But
I am really looking forward to that one because I actually used to be a Freemason.
I was going to say where me and you used to work, where we won't discuss. The someone I used to work with used to be a Freemason as well. It's madness.
Yeah, I was a master mason.
You got the inside scoops then.
Yeah, and now they openly talk about everything, so I can tell you about the ceremonies and all the things.
Oh, nice. That is sweet. I've been looking forward to that. I might have to move that one up the list now.
That's a good one.
Why do you reckon so many people believe conspiracy theories?
Honestly, same reason why so many people do drugs, alcohol, things like this. Because we're all fed up with the norm and we know there's more to it. We're living in a world of make-believe.
Yeah, and I think like you say, it's an escape, but it's like a hobby almost, where people can get away from their 9 to 5 or their kids and stuff when they're knackered, and they can just, when the kids are in bed, you could just chill out.
It's a way of escaping reality.
And it's so easy to do, isn't it? Like how many times you clicked on a YouTube video and watched it, and then before you know it, you've spent like an hour or something, 2 hours watching the video after it and the video after it, and it's just it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Just to go down that, like a couple of times recently, I say recently, like over the last couple of years, like I've been watching like Rich D. Hall's shows on. He does like, do you know him?
I have heard him, yeah.
So he does like, he's got like a program called Rich Planet, and he used to be called a conspiracy theorist, but I wouldn't say he is. I just think he's someone who reports the news, but he bases his news on facts rather than what he's told to say, sort of thing. And he's done excellent documentaries on Madeleine McCann. But we'll save that. The what was I saying then before that? What were we talking about?
I can't even remember now. I'm thinking of the Madeleine McCann case, and that's all running through.
I get distracted by that as well. See, the kids, they rot your brain.
The Madeleine McCann thing, though, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's nobody knows the truth yet. But, you know, there's no real conspiracy behind it as such. It's not done for a big organisation's aim, etc. Whether the parents did it or not, we might never know. But that's not a conspiracy theory. That's is all the evidence there? Will we ever see it all?
Going to get me started on this. I wasn't going to talk about this one today. So, like a day after she was reported missing, they sent out Clarence Mitchell, who is I can't remember his job at the time, but he was someone really high up in the government, and he used to be a journalist for the BBC. Surprise, surprise. He went out there along with all these people who had no business going out there just because of how high up they were in the government. Not like a week after, a day after, which means they organised their flights and whatever the day she went missing. There was no reason for them to be out there. There was no reason for them to be involved. And when you look at these documentaries by Rich Hall, and he goes into all the evidence of it, dodgy as fuck, mate. And I'm telling you, it is a conspiracy theory, and it's a really interesting one because there's so much more to it than just like this poor little girl who's gone missing or whatever has happened to her. There's so much more to it. Like, they've made millions and millions of pounds since writing books and all sorts. And
they have, or everyone I've ever spoke to about it, no one has ever said the reason this was done was for money. They had more than enough money as it was.
No, of course, yeah. I agree that it wasn't done for money.
Yeah, a conspiracy theory to me is the action of an organisation or hidden organisation to further their agenda. So the Madeleine McCann thing, to me, isn't a conspiracy theory. It might be someone's fucked up and they're covering it up. Big difference between a cover-up and a conspiracy theory, though.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of...
It's all planned up before it happens.
Well, I think, like, so basically in this documentary, they you know, like the cadaver dogs, which like sniff out for signs of blood and signs of a corpse. They discovered signs of a corpse in their hire car.
Yeah.
And there's no photo of Madeleine for like 4 days before she went missing, or before she was reported missing. So, like, to me, it's really, really dodgy. Like, and I just think there's something. You know, I'm not saying that they did something to her on purpose by any means, but like, I think there's more to it, and it annoys me and it frustrates me that some guy who's got like a TV program on some obscure UK TV channel and a YouTube, which he releases it on YouTube, he can find out various bits of evidence and all this stuff. But the BBC or the Sun or Telegraph or whoever, they can't find it out. And that's what makes it a conspiracy, because if it was not a conspiracy, X, Y, and Z news organization would have picked up on exactly the same evidence and things which don't add up as what he did and what other people have. So
I don't know. I've got hundreds of theories of what's happened to her, and I don't know if we'll ever know, but I don't think this is a conspiracy theory as such, because I don't think whatever happened was planned. I think this is a cover-up.
Mm.
And to me, there's a big difference with a cover-up and a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory is planned. It's prepared. They know what's going to happen before it happens.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think the Madeleine McCann thing is more of a cover-up by people in high positions in government with high-position friends.
Yeah, and you could bet your ass, mate, if that was me or you, we'd have been arrested for neglect as well.
I'd have left my kids down the ship yesterday and come home, and then one of them disappeared. Do you think I'd get all the loyal support of the country and things like that? And I could go write a book about it? I'd be
not only would you be charged, not only would you be charged, but you'd be, by the time you got to court, the media would have rinsed you so bad that there was no chance you would get a fair trial.
No.
But yeah, trial by media now.
Unfortunately, it's the way of the world.
It is.
Money and power.
So, like, some people will say, "Oh, well, if all these things if these things really happened, like you're saying, or like these people say, they'd say, why isn't it on the news, or why isn't it in the papers?" And like we touched on it a little bit, in that people like Rupert Murdoch and the higher ups in government and media, they withhold it. But like
they'll only release the information if it's profitable to them.
Yeah, they got a plan, haven't they? It always benefits them in that it leads to something else, which whether it's like a particular act or law that they want to pass, or sometimes I think it can be to distract. So they want the whole world in uproar about one thing or about some sort of incident that's happened. So while everyone's looking over there, they're doing something over here, type thing.
Yeah, totally. It's distraction. The left hand does this, the right hand takes that.
Absolutely, like a magician, it's like misdirection.
Yeah.
Which conspiracies are you looking forward to delving into the most, though, on the future shows?
Do you know one that I'd really love to look into more? Cure for disease. I firmly believe there is a cure for almost every disease out there. It's just we're never ever going to see them because too many people lose too much money. And how can you make a world suffer just so you can make money?
Yeah, there's people who believe that there's there's cures for cancer, and there's cures for AIDS, and there's cures for this and that, and then you read some of the stuff some people have said who are like higher ups in government about overpopulation and stuff like that, and their views on that side of it, and then you add that together with the fact that they make so much money from medicines and all this type of stuff that they'll never. Yeah, you think you're right. I don't think they'll ever release it. Certainly not in our life.
It's horrible to say it. Cancer is more profitable than war.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, mate. I think
it's not profitable to the people who've got cancer, not in the slightest. But how much money would the biggest organisations in the world lose if a cure for cancer was made?
God, yeah. Billions and billions, mate.
And that's to each country. I mean, you go globally with it. Trillions, quadrillions, is unspeakable. So to me,
you're looking forward to that, aren't you?
That's the most major conspiracy theory out there. It affects every single person on this planet.
Yeah.
Cure for disease. It affects every one of us. And that's the only conspiracy theory that does directly affect every single person on this planet.
Yeah. There's no one who it doesn't affect. We're all in it.
And because there's so many countries and organisations involved, there's never been many major documentaries on it, and it's never been really delved into because the powers that be won't let it.
No, and I think that's like one of the telltale signs for people who believe that there's conspiracy. There there isn't very many news reports or documentaries out there on it. It's very even when you go into like YouTube and stuff, there is a few documentaries on it, but there's not like
nothing major with concrete evidence as such.
No, it's like not. I'd say it's a bit more than hearsay, but like they haven't quite been able to nail it down, perhaps. Whereas some other conspiracy theories, there's a bit more evidence, and maybe some people would say, well, the reason there's not so many documentaries and not so much evidence about it is because it's not happening. But personally, I agree with you. I think that they make too much money from it for me. And like you look at the way again technology's moved along, and like there was rumors of cures for cancer and AIDS and stuff like that got in the 70s. So you're telling me that there was these rumors in the 70s and they're still going on today, but don't seem any closer to finding some sort of cure or whatever.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting to go through. But then, we're not doctors, but we'll have a look. So
yeah, but it's not actually doctors who create the cures and things anyway. It's biologists.
Yeah, scientists, and who owns who do they work for? Biggest medical companies and the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah.
And as we go through all the different conspiracies, I'd say 8 out of 10 of them will center around big corporations, big companies, or shadowy governments.
Yeah.
Basically, people with the rich elites with loads and loads of money who are trying to achieve or trying to manipulate the world to wherever they want to get it to.
Yeah, money makes power and power corrupts.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
So rather than list all the different conspiracies that we might cover, I did like a quick top 10 of like one little snippet of each of 10, which I'm quite looking forward to looking into.
Yep.
So we'll have a look at these now and have a little discussion. So you've got aliens in Area 51. That could be a long one.
Well, to throw a spanner there, it's actually been proven that extraterrestrials are buried in the desert. Do you know why? Because E.T. was a bit of a flop when it first came out. The film and all the extra copies and things of it were actually taken to a landfill site in the desert. So E.T. is technically buried in the desert, my man.
There you go. Here first.
But no, there's definitely alien life out there.
Yeah, you can't have a universe as big as this, and we're the only planet with any life on. It's just
no way.
It's inconceivable, and it's just like when you think about. I seen a clip on Facebook yesterday, and it was like a picture of Earth, and then it went up in size of all the different planets, and then it went up to the sun, and then it was the bigger suns and all the different things they supposedly discovered, and it was like, you can't tell me that we're this tiny speck of dust compared to all these planets and suns and moons, but we're the only ones with any intelligent life on. Makes no sense whatsoever. And if you could work out the odds in terms of like the size of planets and the amount of people on Earth and compare them, and I bet you the odds would be like billions and billions and billions to one that our planet is the only one with life on.
No way. And like you only got to look back through history the Mayans and the Aztecs, civilizations like that, what they did without technology, impossible. They had help or advice or guidance. Impossible. The pyramids. No way did they build them pyramids without advanced technology. Maybe not the machinery, but they were told how to do it and where to put it and how it goes there. Like the Aztecs, they had a calendar, and I think it was based on 7 temples. And if you basically shine a torchlight through the roof of each temple, they all meet in the sky somewhere. There's no way on this earth they could have done that without even knowing what a wheel was.
No, it's impossible, though, isn't it? And like, even when you think about like how they built the actual pyramids with no technology and no crane and no digger and no this and no that, and like you say, not even wheels, it would have taken them thousands and thousands of years to make that pyramid.
Just the building and manpower of it, the amount of slaves, etc., and things they had access to, that's doable. But the positioning of them and how, they'll face a certain way and where they are longitude, latitude, and the things like that, that's not luck. And that's not, nobody at that time could have even planned out that. They were done off instructions.
Yeah, it's just, like you say, it's similar to the alien thing. It's just so impossibly, it's not even impossible. It's like another step up from impossible. It's a weird one, that is. But again, yeah, I'm looking forward to going through them as well, mate, to be honest, because that interests me, and that's one I haven't looked into as much. So I'm not as familiar with that. So I'm looking forward to going through that. We got like, so then number 2, I got jet fuel can't melt steel beams for 9/11, which there's a lot of different things about 9/11 which are a bit weird, but that's one which, the jet fuel just doesn't burn hot enough to melt steel beams which are that thick. Just doesn't happen. It's not how chemistry works.
It doesn't, but I mean, I believe 9/11 was a big setup. I really do. But with the jet fuel thing, there's explanations to everything. We don't know what was being stored in the Twin Towers. And we might never know what was being stored in there. It might be, okay, the plane attacks and everything like that were planned, but they didn't really want the Twin Towers to come down. That might have been an accident. There could have been stuff stored then and mixed with the jet fuel. We don't know.
Never know. You will know. We will know. But
it might have just been there. It's a conspiracy theory within a conspiracy theory again.
Yeah, and there's weird stuff with 9/11 as well. And like the building, what's it called, Tower 7, which was next to it, which didn't get hit by a plane, collapsed, and that was that had, I can't remember if it was the CIA. No, that was it. So the day before 9/11, I forgot his name, Donald Rumsfeld, I think it was. Yep. He said that they've lost something like $3 trillion. They just couldn't account for it. They didn't know where it was. So there was going to be huge implications to that. And then all the information about that was stored in the corner of the Pentagon, which got destroyed. So like, just that only one part of the building got destroyed, and they were just, oh damn, it's just the bit which tells us where all that money went. Oh, imagine my luck. So they got that, and then there's Building 7. There was, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. I'm sure it was CIA or someone was based in Building 7. It was like a hidden hub for some type of organization, and then obviously they didn't get hit by a plane. Nothing really happened to it, and the wind must have blown it over, I guess.
The big bad wolf.
Yeah.
Anthony Puffed. But let's be fair, America, when it comes to war, defences, things like that, they're one of the most technically advanced countries in the world. There's no way them planes would have got close to them buildings. End of story.
Not a chance.
And the Americans are not averse to shooting down a plane with their own people on if it protects a nation. Simple as that. Sounds horrible, but them planes would have got close. Them planes would not have got close to that city. No way on this earth.
No. I think it's safe to say. So then you've got another personal favourite of mine, which I'm really looking forward to looking into this, is the Mandela Effect. And the whole Hadron Collider is causing it to alter the timeline, which I think is awesome. I'm not sure I believe it, but I just find time travel.
This is the technology that none of us really understand, or anyone on this earth really knows what's going to happen yet.
But Mandela Effect's a weird one for me, because some of them, like, I'm convinced that they're one way, but they're not.
Yeah.
And I find it, like, when I started looking into it and looking at them, I found it was just pickling my head, because I was just like, no, that's not how it was, like. But it is, supposedly. So I like that one. I'm looking forward to that immensely. Have you looked into them at all?
A little bit. I've looked quite a bit into the Hadron Collider.
See, I'm trying to think of the famous ones now. So, like, a lot of them go to like American sort of TV shows or American things. But like, one of them is in Star Wars, when Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father," and then, but he doesn't. He says something completely different. But I'm like, no, that's what he says. He says, "Luke, I'm your father," and apparently it's not. I'm just trying to find it out. So you know, Sex in the City, the TV show. What would you say that's called? Like, what was the program called?
Sex in the City.
Sex in the City, innit?
Yeah.
No. Sex and the City, apparently.
Is it?
Yeah, supposedly.
Well,
stuff like that. So basically, if people don't know what the hell I'm going on about, Mandela Effect is where people remember certain things, can be pop culture or like a sign or a TV show.
Well, they say it's based on Mandela, isn't it? Nelson Mandela's funeral in the 80s.
Yeah, a lot of people remember him dying in the 80s, and there being like a funeral and stuff.
They broadcast his funeral, didn't they?
Yeah, but obviously he didn't. He died when he got out of prison, and so the people who remember him dying in the 80s, he died when he was in prison, which I don't. I remember him getting out of prison and all that type of jazz. Yeah. So, like, you got Star Wars one, you got the Sex in the City, which is Sex in the City. I don't care what anyone says, but apparently it was Sex and the City. And then, We Are the Champions by Queen. And when it finishes, and it goes, "We are the champions," and then there's like a pause, and he goes, "Of the world."
Yeah.
And then it finishes, doesn't it? There's no world at the end. So there you go. No,
I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know, mate. Apparently he does it in a live version, but I'm like, no, he does it in older versions. But no, apparently he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check that.
The Monopoly man, like the guy with the top hat and stuff, who's like on the front. Do you reckon he's got a monocle or not?
Yes.
No, you haven't. That's when, again, I'd say he has, definitely, and he haven't. Do you know Curious George, the cartoon? Yeah. Do you reckon the monkey had a tail or not?
Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't. That's what I mean, mate.
I know some of the teddies have got tails.
Yeah, it's really weird, mate. So like everyone remembers that he says, "Luke, I'm your father," but apparently
Yeah.
he doesn't. He says, "No, I am your father," and I'm like, I'm not having that at all because I like as a kid would say it over and over again, like, and he definitely says, "Luke, I am your father." But there we go. So yeah, and there's
I'm your
loads of
father
this like
again as
hundreds
well.
of, and that's what I mean. And apparently, do you remember a movie called from the '90s called Sinbad about a genie?
Yeah.
No, it didn't exist. See what I mean?
Yeah, it did.
Weird, isn't it? No, it didn't, mate. That again, mate. I promise you, I thought exactly what you're like exactly what you're saying. There's a
Actually, do you know what I
genie.
think that is? Now you said it. There's an American comedian called Sinbad, isn't there?
Yeah,
Who played a genie in a film. And I think that's where that one
yeah.
came from.
It starred as Shaq the genie in Kazam or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, but I'm sure there was Sinbad played the genie in something as well. Um,
Yeah,
Major one,
it's,
Tiananmen Square.
it's
Can you remember the old tank boy? Can you remember seeing footage of someone getting run over by a tank in Tiananmen Square?
yeah, I do remember
Well, half the world doesn't.
it.
That's one of
Madness,
them
isn't it?
things.
Interview with the vampire or interview with a vampire?
With the vampire in it.
Yeah, I thought it was. But this interview. No, I thought it was interview with a vampire, but it's interview with the vampire. But um, last one I'll do because there's so many. Like the Queen and Snow White, like the Disney cartoon.
Yeah.
She never said mirror, mirror on the wall. Apparently,
No, I'm not having
yeah.
that.
She said mirror, mirror. She didn't say mirror, mirror on the wall. She said magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Not having that at all, me. Because it's 100%
I've
mirror,
watched that
mirror.
film loads with my kids, and if she doesn't say that, I haven't noticed.
So yeah, there's loads of them. We'll go through them. We'll go through all them, and we'll have a look
Yeah.
into what people reckon the reasons are and stuff. But yeah, they're really weird. Like there's just so many, which like not all of them that I remember. That are sort of the way I remember them, but there's quite a few. And like people say, it's just people misremembering, but like, it's like half the planet misremembering. There's like a lot of people. You know what I mean? It's not just me who's got a really shit memory. It's like,
The thing is, if an image was released years ago, and then they released the same image, just slightly doctored, people who didn't see the old image will automatically believe the new one, and people who did see the old image will doubt themselves.
yeah, that's it now. So unless you've got like, but then like one of the things we'll look into over there is some people have got like old, like there's the Bernstein Bears or something, which I don't know that one, but I think it's like an American cartoon. So it was like
Wasn't
something
that
like
something
his,
to do, they changed the letter in it or something?
yeah. So it used to be the Bernstein Bears, but it was actually the Bernstein Bears, or like the other way around. I can't remember which one it is, but like it's spelled completely different. Um,
I
but then
remember reading about that years ago somewhere.
this guy he's got like an old video or like VHS with the correct spelling on it. So he's like, well,
Yeah.
I know it was right because I've got the videos and the posters and whatever. And there's a few people who've got like evidence that no, this is the way it was. Like, which is that makes it even more interesting then, doesn't it? Because it's like,
Yeah.
hang on a minute, that's not just people misremembering; they've actually got the stuff that proves it. So
Yeah.
then some of the other ones, one I'm looking forward to because I find it just weird, is the people who think the Earth is flat.
Oh, don't even get me started on them idiots.
It's funny, mate. I'm telling you, it's funny. I
How?
I, I
How?
watched them. But the reason
That's
why
not a
people,
conspiracy theory. That's not nothing. That's just people believe in a crackpot.
I don't know, mate. There's so many people. Not that I believe it, now. And when I say I don't know, but there's so many people who believe it. And like I watched one the other week, and it was this guy on like an Australian. He was on a proper mainstream newscast, and they interviewed him. His name was Mark Sargent, and they interviewed him fully prepared to mock him. And every time they asked him a question, he had an answer for it. And he made him look really fucking stupid, mate. And I just thought, how can this guy who thinks the earth is flat make these people look stupid? And it's because they didn't prepare for it. So they thought they were just going to like catch him out sort of thing. And he just made him look stupid because he had done his research and he had an answer for everything they asked him. So I'm quite looking forward to that one. So with that one, what I'll do is we'll split it because neither of us believe it. I'll go and try and find out. I'll argue for, and I'll try and find all these people who think the world's flat, and I'll go for their point of view. And we'll see where we go. There could be mayhem.
Good to me.
It's going to be hard, that one, for me, I think. But anyway, so then we got Lee Harvey Oswald, worked for the CIA. That's one of my favourites. We touched on JFK earlier, but these are just little snippets of what people believe. What else we got? Never went to the moon because didn't have technology. Can't get past the Van Allen radiation belt. But again, we touched on the moon, which is going to be a good one. Secret societies and the rich elite run the world from the shadows. That's going to be a good one. Rhys is one of them. Rhys is one of them. He's a Freemason. He's on you to keep an eye on me. Make sure I don't blow it open.
We'll only let you know what you need to know.
Hitler, Elvis, Tupac, etc. are all still alive and they faked their deaths. What do you reckon about that?
Some people I do believe have faked their deaths. But people like Tupac, it wasn't revolutionary enough for him to fake his death. There's no real reason behind it of why. Elvis could have just said. Someone like Hitler, I can believe they faked their own death. He had to disappear from the world.
Yeah, like Tupac and Elvis, they had enough money to just go and move to like the Pine Island and do you know what I mean?
Whatever they wanted.
They didn't need to do it. But we'll have a look. We'll look into it, see what. One of my favourite conspiracy theories of all time, this now. Paul McCartney died in a car crash in the 60s and was replaced by a lookalike. You ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's a really wicked documentary about that. And when I first heard that, I was like, what the fuck? Oh, shut up. And then I watched that documentary. I was sold straight away, because it was really, really good, and it's really well put together, and it's got some good evidence. And it actually, when you look at it, it's adds up a bit. I'm not saying I 100% believe it, like I do some other conspiracy theories, but there's a little bit of a nagging doubt there for me. And his voice changed and stuff around the same time, and his looks changed and whatnot. But then it's not just him. There's a few, who else is there? The celebs, people think they've been replaced by a lookalike. Avril Lavigne. There's a few dodgy ones like that. How people think they died and then they did because they made so much money. They would just replace them with lookalikes to keep that money train going.
It could be true that, but there's always another star on the horizon who'll make money, so not as believable for me. There's not enough reason for it to be true to me. It sounds like it costs too much money to do it.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? But apparently, the one with Avril Lavigne is the girl who they reckon took over from her was a lookalike who they used to send to do certain things if she didn't want to do them, or photo shoots and stuff, and
Yeah.
or like she needed someone for the paparazzi to go after her while she was doing other stuff. So yeah, there's that side of it. But we'll have a look. There's lots of things. So what we're going to do is me and Rhys are going to decide each week what we're going to look at, and then we'll both look into it and we'll research it and we'll have a look, and then we'll come back and see see what we got. It's not just going to be the ones we've mentioned today. We're gonna I got my book. I can't reach my book at the moment. It's got like a massive long list of conspiracy theories, but these were just some of the ones which I thought of.
And we've only briefly touched on each subject.
Oh yeah.
When we narrow it down to the one conspiracy theory, we'll really delve into it and rip them apart any way we can.
Absolutely, and we'll try and we're going to try and look at it from both sides as well.
Yeah.
Even if it's one where like one of us or both of us believe that it's fact, or it's true, or it's not true, we'll try and look at it from both ways, prove it from both ways, and then we'll see where we go from there. So, like, excuse me, sorry. These are just a taster of a few of the subjects we'll be discussing and investigating over the next few weeks. But it's going to be fun. For now, Rhys, you on Twitter?
I have just signed up to Twitter so I can follow my kid's school.
There you are. Right, tell the people what your Twitter handle is.
I can't remember it.
There you are. Well, you have to tell us next time.
I will get back with that one later, though.
All right, cool. I'll put it. I'll tell you. I'll put it. I can put it in the video anyway when I upload it.
Fab.
So I've been Simon. That's Rhys. Thanks for joining us. You can catch me on Twitter, acecast_nation. Subscribe on YouTube, Ace Podcast Nation. Like on Facebook, Ace Podcast Nation. Thank you for joining me, Rhys.
No worries at all. It's been a pleasure, my man. We got there.
We're gonna get there. We'll get them churning out now anyway, and we'll get some individual subjects for each show. It's gonna be.
We will have a chat, pick one, and we'll really delve into it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to it, mate. Big time. Right.
Can't wait.
Thanks for joining us, peeps.